We start in New York City in 2008, as an ice cream vendor shames little deaf Maya for being deaf and not being able to talk properly. And soon tells her that she can't have a stinking rainbow screwball with a 99 flake on top, so shut up about it already. So naturally, the hot-headed kingpin fella soon gets super mad at the ice cream bloke mocking the disability of his phony fakey niece, and so smacks him up in a small alley to teach him a lesson. But unfortunately, little Maya totally sees her uncle go full beast mode on the poor fella after being triggered by his refusal to hand out free rainbow screwballs with a 99 flake on top. But luckily, she's totally a psycho and all, and promptly runs over to her dairy archenemy to give him a few more kickings for good measure, and says that's what you get for not giving me a rainbow screwball with a 99 flake on top, and also for marginalising a prepubescent ethnic minority deaf girl. Was some shit. Then we jump forward to 2021, where Fisk tells a now adult Maya over dinner that they're the only ones one another can trust. So he properly dismisses his sign language lady, and not just from her room and her job, but also from life.
Damn!
After the opening titles, we pick up where we left off from the end of the last epi, where that Mr. Kingfisk fella has turned up at her gaff after she blew his mind a few months earlier and not in a good way. And he then has his goons hold her still so he can put a special lens in her eye, which promptly enables some poorly rendered ghosty ghoulie spooks to translate for him in real time, given he presumably can't be bothered to just learn ASL like most of her real family members. And then takes her inside to have another of their family meals together. Kinda like they used to do in New York back in the day, where they would talk about being the only ones they can trust before yeeting totally innocent sign language ladies and shit. And turns out he's brought along her favourite bickies and a fancy wine, which she ungratefully pours down the drain, given she's a little paranoid that the uber-powerful crime lord she recently tried to kill has now turned up at her gaff with a suspicious load of comestibles. But he says he's not even that mad about the whole attempted murder thing, and in fact, he was well impressed that she finally grew some balls and did what she had to do. And now that she's totally proved herself, he offers to give her what she really wants. And no, not one of them cool running blade legs like Oscar Pistorius has, but to rule over a whole empire just like her bawdy uncle, and all she has to do is come home with him and stuff. So he heads out to let her think about it for a bit, and without even opening all the fancy grub what he kindly brought over.
Shame.
Later, Uncle Henry totally bollocks her for having dinner with a dangerous crime lord what survives point blank shots to the face and also smacks up small ice cream men in his spare time. Because that fat geezer took everything he had from him, and that's why he's now 45 years old and totally alone. And presumably reduced to buying farts in a jar for some online OnlyFans skanks by the looks of him. Because he recently tried to get out of doing dodgy dealings, but the naughty Fisk fella promptly threatened to yeet him, before saying he really don't want Maya to become like him. And before you can say, don't you think it's a little late for that, mate, given she just blew up a bunch of goons the other day and you just watched her smash a bloke through a fucking wall last night? She starts spazzing out and seeing her ancient ancestor peeps again. But this time, some rando pregnant woman even makes a cameo. So naturally, Henry takes her over to her Granny Chula's gaff after passing out, which is super awkward given she's been totally avoiding her since she got back into town and ain't seen this old Brinkley for over 20 years. But once inside, Maya explains how she's been seeing a bunch of randos invading her dreams and even when she's awake, including a load of nudie naked peeps getting crushed in a small cave, a sporting mad lacrosse superfan, an expert marksman who only exists in black and white for some reason, and now some knocked up floozy chewing twigs in a small forest. Or some shit. And Chula just says that's well weird, bro, because I've totally been seeing the same thing. And she reckons that the women in their lineage are able to tap into ancestral visions and bullshit abilities, much like generational echoes. Oh, and that pregnant chick was totally her back in the day, because when she was up the duff with her deaf mama, the doctor said there were some medical complications. So her people took her into the middle of a small forest, where they then prayed to their ancestors to totally help her drop a steaming human deuce. And also stuck a little stick in her gob to stop all that bloody screaming for a bit. Anyway, after she finishes waffling on about nebulous Indian folklore, Chula totally apologises for essentially disowning her, because she only meant to banish her dodgy dad, given she blamed him for indirectly getting her daughter killed in a small crash, despite it being solely her daughter's choice to go out in a thunderstorm to get some more hot chocolate from the store. But unfortunately, Maya has a total meltdown, And she says she really needed an Indian granny growing up in the big city, what was full of honkies and rudy blokes what wouldn't even give her ice creams. So she slams her fist on a small table and storms out in her rides drop. Then we cut to a montage, as Cousin Biscuits heads to a local junkyard to find some parts to fix up his granny's truck, given I assume he had no takers on flogging his PS4 last epi, whilst an emotional Granny Chula works on repairing a fancy dress. Anyway, after we're done with all that gay shit, Maya heads to Fisk's hotel room and sticks a gat in his face again, before he goes full Sherlock Holmes and posits,
I suspect you've come to kill me. Again.
And after she whines on about just being used for years, he says it's a bit rich calling me a monster when you've killed a bunch of people in cold blood when doing my dirty business, so stop trying to take the moral high ground and shut up about it already. And after she calls him out about not ever really caring about her, given he manipulated her into becoming a killing machine and also clearly couldn't be bothered to learn sign language properly, he says, I loved you like a daughter, girl. Now take this bloody hammer and totally smash my face in. Just like I did to my own daddy back in the day, and also in season 1 flashbacks of that Netflix show I was in. Because apparently, that'll make you feel better somehow, and also free us both also somehow. But unfortunately, she's too much of a pussy hole to spack up a fellow cripple with a gammy eye. So totally cucks out and says, nah mate, I think I'll leave it if you don't mind. Because although you're a straight white male with lots of wealth and privilege, you're also visually impaired and a man of plus size proportions. So that'll still be considered a hate crime by the alphabeti mob and totally get me cancelled, isn't she? So he just says, fair enough, and gives her to the morning to decide whether she wants to come home to New York on his private plane and stuff. And after reflecting on all the bad things he made her do and all the people that have been hurt after she needlessly started a war against her baldy bulgy uncle boss, she hops atop her motorbike and promptly leaves town, whilst Fisk soon has another meltdown after being triggered by the off-screen flight attendant coming down the aisle and handing out ice creams. After being notified of her decision to not want any more to do with him and she. And that's it. That's the penultimate epi. Oh, my favourite part was learning all about how she can tap into the skills of her ancestors. So I guess in the finale, we'll see her crush herself with rocks, draw silly patterns on her face, fuck about playing a game of lacrosse and pop out a sprog in the woods. And man, I wish I had a super rich uncle who brought me luxury bickies and fancy wine every week, instead of one that just brings a 6-pack of white lightning and dreary updates on his ongoing custody battle with his vindictive ex-wife. But anyway, on to the finale. We start with a flashback, as little Maya knocks the stuffing out of an innocent woodpecker with a friggin' slingshot, before telling her mum that she didn't do nothing or nothing, bro, and it simply fell out a tree like that. And after calling her daughter out on her blatant psycho lies, Maya soon admits that okay, I did it, but I wasn't trying to hurt it. I only wanted to see whether I could hit it and she. And before you can say, you better keep an eye on this kid, because harming defenceless animals is how serial killers start, her mum just shrugs and totally heals the thing, mainly by molesting its chest with a special glowy hands. After the opening titles, which are probably the best part of this slogfest of a show to be fair, Granny Chula visits her ex-hubby Scully to get her old sewing machine back. And they soon rekindle their romance and both start getting touchy-feely on top of a small machine. And before he can say, "Ooh, I'd love to thread your buttons, girl," we cut to the local post office, as said Granny Chula bumps into the frigging kingpin and starts randomly telling him all about her special needs granddaughter, which she exiled as a kid, and how much she loves ignoring people for 20 years. Meanwhile, local yet lovable dimwit Biscuit Boy is working as a parking attendant at the upcoming Choctaw Nation powwow celebration. A shanky Welshie baldy buddy Zane turns up and completely disrespects him to his face, and says I'll park where I bloody like, pal, and no pussy old soy boy with a stupid name is going to stop me. So naturally, a humiliated Biscuits wonders where his granny is already, and then complains to his canine buddy about it all. And before you can say, why is the dog called Billy Jack but he's called fucking Biscuits, we cut to the local cafe, where Maya is being haunted by that vengeful bird which she bonked on the noggin as a kid. But before she can call up the RSPCA to report being stalked by an immortal woodpecker, she soon gets a worried text from her cousin saying all their family seem to have gone missing and she. So naturally, she rushes over to her granny's house to do a quick welfare check, but instead just runs into the ghosty goody spook of her deaded mummy.
No way!
Yes, bloody way. And said deaded mummy totally tells her how all her female ancestors are conveniently connected, and mainly because they echo through her. Some shit. And before I can say, I'd love to echo through you, love, she says them rando Injuns from the various flashbacks throughout the series represented particular aspects of female power, including strategy, cunning and period cramps. Whoops, I mean love. And then says they'll always be with you, so stick this special suit on what your granny made earlier and get on with defeating the baddies already. Later that evening, said baddies turn up at the powwow fair and totally wait to capture that one-legged girl boss what don't need no man and also refuses to get hearing aids. And after Zane spots her trying to blend in with the performers by doing an awkward dance, she soon sneaks off, whilst Uncle Henry tells Biscuits that shit's about to go down, son, so he needs to get tooled up and stuff. But luckily, he mysteriously says that he totally got a head start on all that during the montage scene of the last epi. Elsewhere, Maya explores the barn and is soon confronted by her phony fakey ex-uncle boss, Mr. Kingpin, who then reveals that he's taken all her bleeding relatives hostage, but seemingly only the female ones for some reason. And after using her cousin Bonnie to sign everything he's threatening her with, given he presumably still ain't bothered to learn sign language and she don't seem to have that special lens in her eye what he gave her last week for some reason, she says these lot are my family, bro, because at least they didn't try to weaponise my loneliness nor kill my Injun daddy. So stop whining on about how I betrayed you and shut up about it already. And after he snaps and totally threatens to kill her whole family and then has his goon smack her up good and proper, she sees some more flashbacks to her stunning and brave ancestors, and soon summons the power of literal girl power.
Nice.
And before you can say, how can I summon the spirits of half a dozen young exotic ladies on a whim? She shares the abilities with her female relies, who promptly use the powers of glowy hands to smack up all their captors and totally emancipate themselves free of the patriarchy. Or some shit. Whilst outside, turns out Biscuits has used a bunch of shite from that scrapyard he visited last epi to totally pimp his granny's ride, and promptly uses it to run everyone over and squash them all flatter than Kristen Stewart's chest. As Uncle Henry then pops a cap in that naughty Zane fella and totally gets revenge on him killing his shoe-shining desk clerk boy the other night. 'Cause hiring talented desk clerks who can totally shine shoes in a small roller disco hall is harder than it looks, bro. Meanwhile, back in the barn, Mr. Kingpin goes full beast mode, and it looks like it's curtains for the formerly shady native Injured lady. But luckily, he's immediately defeated by a particularly vicious nipple twister. And the pain soon sends him into his own mind, where he sits about in his old bedroom and battling a nasty bout of constipation. Anxiously crying toward a small wall what represents his childhood abuse and shit. So Maya tries to take the lesson what she learned in the opening flashback and also from the wafflings of her dead mum earlier to totally heal his anger and pain. Though it isn't really clear if she was successful after he immediately screams in her face asking what the fuck she did to him in a threatening shouty voice, and promptly gets the heck out of Dodge just before the local filth arrived to see him quietly sobbing in the back of his motor like a right cuck after an impromptu therapy session, and also being beaten by a stunning and brave girl boss for a second time in 2 Disney Plus show finales. And we end with Maya reminiscing on her happy childhood memories and realising this place wasn't so bad after all, before deciding to turn up Fast and Furious style at a backyard family barbecue after using the power of family and Indian ancestral glowy powers to totally save the day. And that's it. That's the finale. Though my favourite part was marvelling at all the amazing diversity and inclusion quotas they managed to fill with this show. I mean, a modern superhero led by an indigenous deaf amputee girl boss with a feisty attitude. On a series so subversive it dared to depict traditional male characters as dopey blokes with stupid names for a change, and reduce straight white males into humiliated shells of their former selves. God, so stunning and brave. And look, it even included cleft lip representation. Wowzers, so many boxes ticked. Oh, and speaking of ruined characters, there's also a quick post-credit scene of that recently emasculated Mr. Kingpin fella, watching TV on a private jet and thinking about running for mayor. Because the bloke on screen says the city needs a candidate who empathises with the people and understands their pain. And all I can say is, if he can understand my trauma of once having to sit through a CGI monstrosity twerking beside a skanky rap hoe and then promise me he'll never ever get a season 2, then he certainly has my vote, son. But anyway, that's a plot and that's a lot. Considering in that mail thing so you don't miss any future recaps. Tell me if you like this series in the comments if you have time, and I'll echo through you in the next one.